Hello, it's Laura McRae here and welcome back to Podcast Strategy That Brings in Clients. Today we're talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough airtime when it comes to podcasting, and that's your mindset. We talk a lot about microphones, editing and content ideas, and all that is really important. But if your head's not in a good place, podcasting can quickly start to feel really heavy. You might find yourself refreshing your stats again and again, wondering if anyone's listening, second-guessing everything you say, or losing enthusiasm, because what's the point? If any of that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. We're going to chat through some practical ways to support your mindset so you can enjoy your podcast, stay consistent, and remember why you started it in the first place. Welcome to Podcast Strategy That Brings in Clients. I'm your host, Laura McRae, podcast producer and content strategist. If you want your podcast to bring in leads, build trust and support your business, you're in the right place. Because smart content starts with your podcast, but it doesn't stop there. Podcasting needs a strong mindset because it's a long game. It's often a one-way conversation and it can feel like you're talking into the void, especially at the start. Your audience might not always message you, comment or email, but that doesn't mean they're not relying on you. These people are listening to you on their commute, while they're walking the dog, folding the washing, or scrolling through their app thinking, oh good, there's a new episode from you. They might never tell you that, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. So a big part of positive podcast mindset is being able to remember that your voice matters, your podcast is useful, and that someone needs to hear it, even when you're not getting any validation. Let's talk about stats first. Do you keep refreshing your downloads? Do you often publish an episode and then check your host, check again that night, check again the next day, compare this episode with the last one, and before you know it, your mood is completely tied to those numbers? If you keep looking at downloads, you won't find the kind of success you're looking for. Downloads can be useful data, of course, but they don't tell you how deeply someone needed that episode. They don't tell you if someone sent it to a friend, and they don't tell you if a future client is quietly binge listening and building trust with you. So instead of using stats as a measure of your worth or your podcast value, try this. Only check them at set times, for example, once a week or once a month. Look at trends over time, not one single episode. And ask yourself, what can I learn from this, rather than am I good enough? Your job is to show up and serve. And numbers are just a tiny part of the picture. Let's talk about that moment you hit record, because that can really affect how you feel. Here's some simple things you can do before you start. Take a minute to sit, close your eyes and do some slow, deep breaths. It helps you calm your nervous system, settle that "who am I to talk about this" feeling, and bring you into the present moment. You don't need to do it for long. Just 60 seconds of deep breathing can make a big difference to your mental state. Want your podcast to bring in new leads without doing all the work? Then you need a podcast producer who doesn't just edit episodes, but makes sure every one of them supports your business goals. That's what I do. I manage the whole process so your podcast does what it's meant to: build trust, grow your audience and bring in leads. I only work with 10 podcasters at a time. If you want one of those spots, book a call at podcastsupportservices.com.au/contact. Before you record, imagine one person, and that one person is your favourite kind of listener. It could be a client you love working with, someone who's messaged you before, or your ideal listener sitting on the beach or walking around the block with your voice in their ears. Now picture this person jumping into your DMs to say, I listened to that episode and it was exactly what I needed today. Talk to them when you record. Talk to that one single person, imagine them. Or you might have a little pre-record ritual. Put on a song or playlist that makes you feel energised and confident. One of my clients has a full Tony Robbins-style hype playlist that she listens to before anything big. You don't have to go that far, but a track that makes you feel upbeat can really shift your energy. On days where your brain goes, is this even worth it? It's really important to come back to your why. Ask yourself, why did I start this podcast? Who did I want to help? What did I want this podcast to do for my business and my listeners? You might have many different reasons. They could be to build trust with potential clients, to educate people so they feel more confident, to tell stories that make people feel less alone, or to support a bigger mission you care about. Write that down somewhere so that you can see it. Put it on a sticky note near your desk, or put it in your podcast planner, or on the front of your notebook. Because when you're tired or you've got a tech issue or life just gets a bit much, your why is often the thing that will help you press record again. We're all human and we have those impostery days. One thing that really helps is creating your own little evidence bank. These can consist of screenshots of kind messages, emails from listeners, reviews from Apple, and comments from someone who might say something like, "This really helped me." Print all those out. I've got a client who struggles with imposter syndrome often, and I literally keep screenshots of all of her reviews and pop them in one space so that she can see them when she's doubting herself. You can do the same. You could copy and paste your reviews in a Google Doc, then print them and stick them on your desk near you, or save screenshots in a folder or on your phone. Then on the days when you're thinking, why am I doing this? You've got that proof that your work is landing, even if your brain is telling you otherwise. Even if you love the topic of your podcast, you might lose enthusiasm from time to time, and that's normal. I'm going to give you a few ideas now to bring that spark back. If you only listen to podcasts in your own niche, it can start to feel repetitive. So instead, try listening to story-based podcasts or audiobooks. Listen to interview shows in completely different industries, or listen to comedy podcasts. That's what I've been doing lately. You could study storytelling. Storytelling is such a powerful part of podcasting. You don't have to be dramatic or theatrical, but learning how to set up a story, share what happened, and explain what it taught you or your clients can make your episodes feel more engaging and more enjoyable to create. This is something I struggle with, so I recently listened to a great book by Matthew Dix called Story Sell. I listened to this so that I can try and weave more storytelling into my podcast episodes. And another tip, stay loosely connected to what's happening in your space, but don't feel like you have to read or listen to everything. Follow just a few trusted people, read the odd book, and subscribe to a podcast or two. That's plenty. As long as it's enough to give you ideas without leaving you feeling overwhelmed. A big part of podcast mindset is accepting that you can't wait till you're feeling in the mood every time. If you want your podcast to be sustainable, it helps to have a routine, a rough recording schedule, and some habits that support you. Because once you fall out of the habit, it can really be hard to get going again. I know because I've done it myself. I took a break and then I really struggled to come back. Now what I do, I record my podcast episodes on a Friday, and on a Mondays when I edit my podcast episodes and create all the content around the episode. And that's in my diary, and I try my best never to change it now. So things that can help you do this are deciding ahead of time what day is your recording day. So like I said, mine's on a Friday. Block out time in your calendar and treat it like a client appointment. Try not to move it. And keep your setup as simple as possible so it's easy to start. And remember, a real podcast episode doesn't need to be 45 minutes long. You can create shorter, focused episodes and still deliver loads of value. Podcasting can be lonely. It's often just you, your microphone, and your thoughts. A few things that can help your mindset are, instead of saying, for example, I want 1,000 downloads this month, try saying things like, I want 2 genuine engagements this week. That could be a message, a share, or a reply. Or you could say something like, I want to hear from one of my listeners who's taken action from an episode. Or maybe a goal could be to send your podcast link to 3 people who you know are going to find it useful that week. That changes your focus from chasing numbers to building relationships. Why not join a podcasting community, like a Facebook group, where other people get how you're feeling? Join a group where you can share your wins, vent about tech nightmares, get ideas, and just feel less alone in the whole process. If you're not already in my free Facebook group called the Australian Podcasters Collaborative, make sure you join. I'll pop the link in the show notes. You're so welcome to join. Another tip, if you know you thrive with accountability, find yourself a mentor, a podcast manager, or a business friend who also has a podcast. Have someone you can message and say to them, I'm recording on Thursday, make sure I do it. Sometimes just knowing someone else is holding the vision with you is enough to keep you moving. Positive mindset also means knowing when to slow down. So, batch record when you can. If you've got energy, record 2 or 3 episodes in one go. Future you will be grateful. Give yourself permission to rest. You're allowed to take a break and come back. Just communicate it with your audience if it's going to be more than 1 or 2 weeks. And don't put out content for content's sake. I've been there, publishing because you feel like you should, even though your heart's not in it. Your listeners can feel the difference between an episode you've made to tick a box and one you've made to genuinely help them. If you need to simplify your podcast, just create shorter episodes that have something your listeners can take something from. It's better than burning out. I want to leave you with a little experiment to play with before your next episode. So before you record, do 60 seconds of slow breathing. Visualise one person who needs your episode and imagine them messaging you afterwards saying thank you. Hide your stats for a week, no checking and no refreshing. And then after the episode goes live, write down one thing you're proud of about that episode. Just one. Do that for your next episode and see how it feels. If this episode has given you a bit of a reset around your podcast mindset, I'd love to know. Which mindset tip are you going to try first? The breathing before you record, hiding your stats for a week, or printing out your favourite reviews? Pick one and stick with it for your next episode. You can let me know your answer by sending me a quick message on Instagram at podcast.support.services or commenting in Spotify. I genuinely love hearing how you're going with your podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll chat to you next week. This episode is brought to you by Podcast Support Services, podcast strategy that attracts leads, clients, and credibility. Are you looking for a podcast producer? We may have availability. Head to podcastsupportservices.com.au.